They banned me from my mom's birthday because my sister was introducing her successful boyfriend. My parents looked down on me until he saw me on a video call and said, "Hello, boss." That's when the apology started, but it was already too late. My family once treated me like I was their biggest disappointment, pushing me aside for my golden child sister and her impressive new boyfriend. Little did they know, their entire perfect facade was about to shatter, thanks to a twist of fate so shocking, it still makes my blood boil. This isn't just about a birthday dinner. It's about a lifetime of being overlooked and the incredible moment when years of injustice finally came crashing down on them. Let me take you back. I'm Mason, 33, a senior executive at a major tech company in Seattle now, but my journey wasn't always this clear. I grew up in suburban Chicago, in a pretty typical middle-class home. My parents were hard workers, big on traditional values, especially when it came to education and career. For the first 2 years of my life, I was their everything. Then Madison, my sister, came along, 2 years younger, and everything shifted. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, she became the family favorite. Madison was naturally outgoing, charismatic, always bringing home perfect report cards, winning spelling bees. She just knew how to charm adults. I was different, more reserved, thoughtful, fascinated by how things worked, not really chasing gold stars. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" became a constant refrain. When Madison got into the gifted program in 4th grade, my parents threw a huge party. That same year, I won the science fair, and I got a pat on the back. The message was clear, even if unspoken, her achievements mattered more. High school only amplified it. Madison joined every club, became class president, all set for the Ivy League. I found my passion in computer science, spending hours coding in my room. My parents saw her activities as building a future and my coding as just playing on the computer. The breaking point hit with college decisions. Madison got into Princeton with a scholarship, and my parents were ecstatic, telling everyone they knew. I, meanwhile, saw a different path. The tech industry was booming, and I knew a traditional degree wasn't the only way. One night at dinner, I dropped the bomb. "I'm thinking about doing a coding boot camp instead of college." The silence was deafening. My dad looked at me like I'd suggested becoming a professional gambler. "That's not a real education, Mason. You need a degree to be successful." My mom, in her worried teacher voice, added, "Honey, what company would hire someone without a college degree?" Madison just smirked. She was doing things the right way. But I stuck to my guns. I enrolled in an intensive coding boot camp in Chicago, working nights at an electronics store to support myself. I thrived. Within 3 months, I had a portfolio and was ready for the job market. My first job was at a small startup. The pay wasn't great, but the experience was gold. I learned everything from coding to business strategy. My parents, they just saw it as a temporary starter job. "It's not too late to apply to community college," my mom would say on our weekly calls. Meanwhile, Madison graduated Princeton with honors and landed a marketing job with a higher starting salary, a fact my parents loved to mention. They just didn't understand. I wasn't chasing titles. I was building skills and connections that would compound over time. Over the next 5 years, I steadily climbed the ladder, moving to Seattle for a mid-level engineering position, getting promoted to team lead. Then by 30, I was an engineering director, managing a team of 20. I lived comfortably but modestly, investing most of my earnings. I never flaunted my success. Why bother? I'd learned early on that my accomplishments would never be enough. For my family anyway. "So, you're still doing that computer thing?" my dad would ask, assuming I was still in some entry-level role because I never bragged. Madison, the golden child, bought a condo she could barely afford, but she was still their definition of success. By 33, I had been promoted again to Senior Vice President of Engineering, overseeing hundreds of employees and a budget over $50 million. My compensation package was substantial, but my lifestyle remained unchanged. 6 months ago, I personally interviewed and approved the hiring of a promising young developer named Ryan Thompson. He was talented, clearly early in his career, assigned to a team under my purview. Madison, though, she was still curating her perfect life, dating successful men she proudly paraded. Our parents mentioned her new boyfriend, how ambitious and going places fast he was. Working at some big tech company. Madison always exaggerated, viewing relationships as extensions of her personal brand. I didn't think much of it then. Just another one of Madison's stories making. Her life seemed superior to mine. Then came my mother's 60th birthday. A milestone. 2 months out, my father called, casually telling me about dinner at La Maison, an upscale French restaurant. I immediately booked flights from Seattle, a hotel, and ordered a custom necklace and spa day for Mom. Family events, despite our complicated history, were sacred to me. I'd never missed one. But the week before the party, my dad called again. Mason, we're having a bit of an issue with the reservation. The space is smaller. We're having to cut down the guest list. My heart pounded. What are you saying, Dad? He hesitated. It might be better if you came to visit another time. We could have a small family dinner, just the 4 of us. The implication hit me like a physical blow. Are you uninviting me for Mom's birthday? He stammered. Don't think of it that way. We're just postponing your visit. I pushed. Who all is coming to the actual dinner? Another awkward pause. Well, your mother and I, your aunt and uncle, your cousins, and Madison and her boyfriend. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. So Madison's boyfriend is coming, but I'm being asked not to. My father's voice took on that condescending tone I knew so well. Madison really wants to introduce him to the family. He's quite successful, works at some big technology firm in a very important position. Madison thought you might feel uncomfortable around him, given your different career paths. We know how you feel about your more alternative choices. I stood frozen in the middle of the office corridor, anger building inside me like a tidal wave. They were explicitly excluding me based on their utter misconception of my professional status. The irony would have been laughable if it wasn't so profoundly hurtful. Let me get this straight, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I'm being uninvited from my own mother's milestone birthday because Madison wants to show off her boyfriend, and you're worried I'll feel inferior to him. Don't be dramatic, Mason, he dismissed. It's just one dinner. He said Mom understood the situation and that Madison's boyfriend was very busy. The subtext burned. His comfort, his schedule, his perceived status, all trumped my presence at my own mother's birthday. The rejection cut deep, reopening every childhood wound of feeling less than. And what exactly did Madison tell you about my career? I asked, needing to know how twisted the narrative had become. Well, we know you do something with computers at some company in Seattle, he said, as if it was a hobby. Madison mentioned you're still in a pretty entry-level position. Nothing wrong with that, son. Not everyone climbs the corporate ladder. I almost laughed. Entry-level. I was running a multi-million-dollar division, making decisions that affected millions of users. But correcting them felt utterly pointless. If they'd decided I wasn't successful enough to attend, no title or salary figure would change their fundamental lack of respect. I see, I said simply. Well, I wouldn't want to make anyone uncomfortable with my presence. My father sounded relieved. After hanging up, I stood there, reeling. Every comparison, every dismissal, every subtle jab at my choices came flooding back. Shock, disbelief, then a deep, aching hurt. These were my parents. The people who were supposed to value me unconditionally. Instead, they had drawn a line, and I was on the wrong side of it, deemed professionally inferior. Anger flared. I could call back, set them straight, watch them backtrack. But would that truly change anything? Would it make them see me? Or just my impressive title? I decided to maintain my dignity. I canceled my flight and hotel, sent a heartfelt gift and flowers to Mom. I wouldn't force my presence, but I wouldn't pretend their actions hadn't hurt. Little did I know, this rejection was just the fuse. Despite trying to move on, curiosity gnawed at me. Who was this supposedly impressive boyfriend? Who'd replaced me at the family table? One evening, scrolling through Madison's meticulously curated social media, I saw him. Tall, dark hair, confident smile, always impeccably dressed. Date night. With my successful tech executive, one caption read. My eyes rolled, but as I zoomed in, a flicker of recognition. No way. It couldn't be. I opened my company directory and typed Ryan Thompson. His headshot popped up. Asterisk Madison's Successful boyfriend was Ryan, the junior developer I had hired 6 months ago. Asterisk the irony was exquisite. My sister was dating someone who reported asterisk up through several layers of management too. Me star. Ryan was talented, yes, but he was 3 years into his career, a mid-level developer. Exactly. The kind of person my family would have dismissed as having an alternative career path if he'd been my friend. I confirmed his employment file for levels below me, a fraction of my salary. This was a professional dilemma, sure, but more than that, it was a profound insight into Madison. She had, clearly, deliberately exaggerated his position, all to impress our parents and maintain her carefully constructed narrative of superior life choices. She'd deemed him important enough to exclude her own brother from a milestone event. I briefly considered exposing the connection, but decided against it. Ryan was an unwitting prop in Madison's games. I'd maintain professional boundaries at work and wait. Reality, I figured, had a way of asserting itself. I just didn't anticipate how quickly and dramatically. The morning of Mom's birthday, I sent the flowers and necklace. Her call thanking me was warm, but tinged with guilt. I wish you were here, she said softly. Madison's boyfriend is joining us tonight. He seems very nice. Works at a big tech company, like you do. I bit back the urge to expose the truth. That's great, Mom. I hope you have a wonderful dinner. As the evening wore on, I couldn't help but check social media. Madison was posting furiously. Pre-dinner photos, champagne toasts, Mom opening gifts. There she was, beaming next to Ryan, our parents gazing at him with that unmistakable approval they'd rarely, if ever, given me. My father's impressed expression, my mother touching Ryan's arm, the perfect family celebration, my absence. Unacknowledged. Around 9 p.m., my phone rang. My mother, video calling. I answered, forcing cheerfulness. Wonderful. We're just having dessert, she chirped, panning the camera around the private dining room. There were my father, aunt, uncle, cousins, all waving. Madison was visible at the far end, looking annoyed. Ryan was beside her, back to the camera. We miss having you here, son, my father boomed. How's that apartment of yours? Still in the same place. He still thought I was in some small starter apartment. Yes, same place, I replied, not bothering to correct him. And work? Still doing that computer stuff? My mother took over. Mason sent me the most beautiful necklace with all our birthstones, she announced. Wasn't that thoughtful? I heard Madison's voice off camera. That's nice. Ryan got Mom those designer earrings she's been wanting for ages, from that exclusive boutique. My mother, slightly flustered, quickly recovered. Yes, those two. I'm being absolutely spoiled. She panned the camera again, slowly, across the table. Past my aunt, my uncle, then it reached Madison and Ryan. Madison was whispering in Ryan's ear. As the camera settled, Ryan looked up, straight into the frame. The moment of recognition was instant. His eyes widened. He choked slightly on his water. He composed himself quickly, but the shock was clear on his face. Mr. Richards, he said, incredulous. Then, professionalism kicking in, he straightened in his chair. Hello, boss. The silence that followed was deafening. The camera wobbled as my mother's hand shook. Boss, she repeated, looking from the phone to Ryan and back. What do you mean, boss? Madison's voice, high-pitched with disbelief, cut through. What are you talking about, Ryan? Ryan's voice, bewildered, carried clearly. That's Mason Richards. He's the senior VP of engineering. My boss's boss's boss. Another silence. Then, a cacophony of confused voices. The camera tumbled, showing glimpses of shocked faces. Madison's voice, shrill. That's impossible. Mason works some entry-level tech job in Seattle. Entry-level. Ryan sounded genuinely confused. Mr. Richards oversees the entire engineering division. He's one of the most senior executives in the company. My father's face appeared in frame, too close. Mason, is this true? Are you this young man's superior at work? I nodded calmly. Ryan was hired about 6 months ago. He's a talented developer on one of our engineering teams. But you never said, my father began. You never asked, I replied simply. The video call abruptly ended. Whether intentional or accidental, someone had hung up. I sat back in my office chair, processing the fallout. The carefully constructed narrative about my career, maintained by my family for years, had just imploded in the most public, unexpected way possible. My phone immediately began buzzing. My father, my mother, Madison, a barrage of texts and calls. I put my phone aside. The truth had emerged, not by my design, but by reality. Now, I had to decide how to handle it. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind of missed calls, voicemails, and texts. I listened to them all, giving myself space to process. After years of being misunderstood and undervalued, I felt I deserved that. My father's messages went from accusatory, "Why didn't you tell us?" to awkward apologies. My mother's were tearful and emotional. "I feel terrible. I never would have agreed if I'd known." Madison's were the most revealing, initially hostile, "How dare you humiliate me?" Then shifting to self-preservation, "Look, maybe I exaggerated a little, but you could have corrected me privately." I even got a professional email from Ryan, apologizing for the awkwardness and assuring me of his commitment to work, which confirmed he'd been an unwitting participant. I quickly responded, assuring him his job was safe. After a full day of reflection, I decided to tackle each family member individually. Madison first. I called her that evening. "Finally," she snapped. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Hello to you too, Madison. I think we need to talk about what happened. You humiliated me." Ryan hasn't returned my calls. I haven't spoken to Ryan outside of a brief email assuring him his job is secure. And I didn't humiliate you, Madison. Your own actions did that. What is that supposed to mean? It means you've been telling our family Ryan is some high-powered tech executive when you know perfectly well he's early in his career. You created a fiction that fell apart when reality intervened. A long pause. "Fine," she finally admitted defensively. "I may have implied he was more senior. But that's only because..." "Because what?" "Because that's what matters to mom and dad. You know how they are. They've always measured success by titles and prestige. I was just giving them what they wanted to hear. At my expense, Madison. You used these exaggerations to have me excluded from mom's birthday. I didn't think you'd care that much," she said, her voice smaller. "You've always been so independent, doing your own thing, regardless of what the family thinks. Being independent doesn't mean I don't care about being included in important family events, Madison, or that it doesn't hurt to be explicitly rejected because I'm deemed not successful. Enough." "Well, apparently that was all wrong anyway," she shot back, bitter. "You've been hiding your big, important job from us all these years. Were you just waiting for a moment like this to show us all up?" I took a deep breath. I never hid anything. I simply stopped trying to correct the narrative that you and our parents created. You all decided long ago that my path wasn't valuable or impressive, so I stopped seeking your validation. So, you're saying this is all our fault? I'm saying we all contributed to a family dynamic where authenticity was sacrificed for appearances and where success was defined so narrowly that we couldn't see or appreciate each other's actual achievements. The conversation went in circles for a while, an uneasy truce at the end. But before she hung up, she offered, "For what it's worth, Ryan really did talk about how much he respected his boss's boss's boss. I just never imagined that person was you." The irony. Next, I met with Ryan via video. He looked nervous. "Thank you for making time for this conversation, Mr. Richards," he began formally. "Under the circumstances, you can call me Mason when we're discussing personal matters," I offered. Though professionally, we maintained boundaries. He nodded, visibly relieved. I assured him his job was safe, that his work would be evaluated on its merits. "I'm extremely uncomfortable with how I was positioned in your family situation," he admitted. "I never claimed to be an executive." I told him I understood that Madison had a history of enhancing status. We discussed practicalities, agreeing to disclose the connection to HR and for me to recuse myself from decisions affecting his employment. As we wrapped up, Ryan hesitantly asked, "Has this situation affected your relationship with your sister?" I considered it. Our relationship has been complicated for many years. This is just the latest chapter. He then said, "For what it's worth, she speaks very highly of you when it's just the two of us. I think there's a lot of admiration underneath the competition." His observation surprised me. Perhaps there was more complexity to Madison than I'd recognized. Finally, my parents. We agreed to dinner that weekend in Chicago. I flew in, bracing myself. They chose an upscale steakhouse. I arrived early, noting their unusual uncertainty. My father, typically confident, and my mother, usually composed, both looked genuinely unsettled. We settled in, and after ordering, my father finally spoke. Son, I owe you an apology. What happened at your mother's birthday was unfortunate, and I take responsibility. I nodded silently. I should have questioned Madison's characterization, he continued. And I should never have suggested you miss your mother's birthday. But why did you accept her framing so easily? I asked. Why was it so believable to you that I would be intimidated by someone supposedly more successful? He looked uncomfortable. You've always been difficult to read about your career. You never talk about promotions or accomplishments. You live modestly. You don't seem to care about the markers of success that most people value. And that made you assume I wasn't successful? I wouldn't put it that way, he hedged. We just didn't have a clear picture. You never asked, I pointed out. Not in any meaningful way. Still doing that computer thing isn't exactly showing interest. My mother interjected, tears forming. We didn't understand what you did, Mason. All those technical terms. Madison's path was easier to comprehend and share with friends. So, because my career didn't make for easy conversation at your social gatherings, you decided it wasn't worth understanding. I challenged. When Madison got her marketing job, you learned every detail so you could brag about it. You never made that effort with me. My father paused, considering. I suppose there's some truth to that, he admitted, reluctantly. The issue isn't just about Mom's birthday, I continued. It's about a pattern that's existed our entire lives. Madison follows the path you understand, so she gets recognition. I choose a different route, so my achievements are minimized or ignored. We've always been proud of you both, my mother insisted, wiping a tear. Have you? I asked gently. Or have you been proud of Madison and tolerant of me? The question hung in the air. As appetizers arrived, we ate in silence, processing. I think my father said finally that we may have had a narrow definition of success, one that was shaped by our own experiences. It was the most self-aware statement I'd ever heard from him. When I was coming up, success had clear markers, the corner office, the title. Your path didn't have those, so I didn't know how to evaluate it. So instead of learning, you dismissed it, I concluded. He nodded slowly. I think that's fair, and I was wrong to do so. My mother reached across the table, taking my hand. When we saw how Ryan reacted to you on that video call, it was like suddenly seeing you through someone else's eyes. The respect in his voice. When he called you boss, it made us realize how little we knew about your actual life. I never needed you to be impressed by my title or salary, I said. I just wanted you to respect my choices and be interested in my journey, even if it didn't follow the conventional path you understood. We should have done better, my father acknowledged. And I'm truly sorry we didn't. For the first time, they truly listened as I explained my role. Why didn't you ever correct our misperceptions? My mother asked. At first, I tried, I told her, but my achievements were always compared unfavorably to Madison's. Eventually, I stopped seeking your validation and focused on building a career that satisfied me, regardless of whether you understood or appreciated it. And we reinforced that by continuing to misunderstand and undervalue your choices. My father added a new level of insight in his voice. Yes, I agreed. It became a cycle. The less you valued my path, the less I shared. The less I shared, the less you understood. I wish we could go back, my mother said sadly. We can't change the past, I replied. But we can set better patterns for the future. I laid out my expectations, genuine interest, respect for my choices, fair treatment compared to Madison. No more excluding me, no more computer thing, no more unfavorable comparisons. They agreed, my father, struggling a bit with the implicit criticism of his past behavior, but accepting it. And what about Madison? My mother asked. Madison and I have our own issues, I said. But you can help by not enabling or rewarding her competitive behavior. Don't let her use status as currency for preferential treatment. By dessert, the atmosphere had lightened. A tentative optimism hung in the air. We're proud of you, son, My father said as we prepared to leave. Not because of your title or success, but because of the man you've become, despite our shortcomings as parents. It was the most genuine compliment he'd ever given me. This dinner wouldn't instantly heal decades of hurt, but it was a profound first step. As they hugged me goodbye, Mom asked, "Will you come for Thanksgiving?" The whole family. Together. "Let's take it one step at a time," I replied, but I meant it. I was open to trying. In the months that followed, real change began. My parents made visible efforts. My father subscribed to tech newsletters, sending me articles with genuine questions. My mother initiated calls, focusing on my day-to-day, not just milestones. These small gestures, remembering a colleague's name or asking thoughtful questions, felt like healing balm on old wounds. It wasn't always smooth. Old habits resurfaced, especially at large family gatherings. But now they caught themselves, corrected course. My relationship with Madison was more complex. After our initial phone call, communication was minimal. But 3 months later, she surprised me by suggesting coffee. We met at a quiet cafe. She looked polished, but subdued. "Ryan and I broke up," she said. "It wasn't working. He wasn't who I was pretending he was, and I wasn't who he thought I was either." She explained that after the birthday incident, Ryan started asking about her career, her actual achievements. Turns out he valued authenticity more than status. She gave a wry smile. He said he'd rather date someone genuinely passionate about their work than someone focused on appearances. The irony was thick. It made me think about how much energy I've spent crafting an image instead of building a meaningful life, she continued, and how much of our sibling relationship has been poisoned by competition. It was the most genuine conversation we'd had as adults. She acknowledged our parents' role in her need for validation. I admitted my withdrawal had sometimes manifested as smugness. "Do you think we can ever have a normal sibling relationship?" she asked. "I don't know about normal," I replied honestly, "but maybe we can build something healthier." "I'd like to try," she said in four. Once, I believed her sincerity. At work, Ryan eventually transferred to a different department, further minimizing any perceived conflict. We remained professional, our interactions polite but distant, acknowledging the complicated threads that now connected us. 6 months after the birthday revelation, I received news of a significant promotion to the executive leadership team, reporting directly to the CEO. When I called my parents, their reaction was completely different. "That's wonderful, Mason," my father said warmly, genuinely curious about the new responsibilities. My mother asked thoughtful questions about how I felt about it. They were celebrating my success on my terms, interested in the substance, not just the status. "We're having a small dinner next weekend to celebrate Mom's retirement," my father mentioned casually. "Just family. We'd love to have you there if you can make it." The casual, genuine invitation stood in stark contrast to the painful exclusion less than a year before. "I'll be there," I promised and meant it. Beyond my family, this experience forced me into deep personal reflection. I'd always claimed to be unbothered by their lack of recognition, focusing on internal measures of achievement. But the pain of being excluded revealed I still craved their approval more than I admitted. This led me to examine other areas of my life, questioning where I was chasing external validation. I started building a community of friends who valued authenticity and found unexpected fulfillment mentoring younger professionals, giving them the support I'd lacked. The journey continues, with steps forward and occasional setbacks. Madison still slips into old, competitive patterns sometimes, but now I respond with genuine congratulations, and the moment passes without escalating. My parents sometimes revert to old behaviors, but now we have the language and trust to address it directly. Sitting on my Seattle condo balcony, watching the city lights, I recognize the profound lesson. Respect should never be conditional on status or conformity to others' expectations. True connection comes from being valued for who you authentically are, not for titles or achievements. My family needed the shock of discovering my position to see their flawed value system. But the real change wasn't them finally seeing me as successful by their standards. It was them realizing their standards themselves had been misguided, prioritizing appearance over substance. For my part, I Learned that true strength isn't pretending not to care about family opinion. It's caring enough to engage honestly about how their treatment affects you and what you need from that relationship. The road ahead won't be perfect. Decades-old patterns don't dissolve overnight. But we've taken the crucial first steps toward more authentic connections based on acceptance, not achievement. For the first time in years, I feel a sense of peace, not because my family finally recognizes my professional success, but because we're beginning to recognize each other's inherent worth beyond any external measures. Have you ever had family members judge you based on their own narrow definition of success? What did you do to handle that situation? Share your experience in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Remember that true success isn't measured by titles or status, but by authenticity and meaningful connections. Thanks for listening.